Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's presentation on the QAFP examination. Thank you for participating and showing your dedication to furthering your educational path to become a financial planning professional. My name is Lorene Barber. I am the Manager of Examinations at FP Canada, and I will be hosting today's webinar. I have 15 years of experience providing training in informal and formal environments for a variety of learners, both locally and internationally. I'm a specialist in the development of fair, valid, and reliable standardized examinations in fast-paced, high-stakes environments, with an emphasis in the development, release, and evaluation of certification examinations and assessment tools for a broad range of professionals. Presenting with me today is Paulette Anthony, the Director of Examinations. As the Director of Examinations, Paulette oversees FP Canada's certification examinations and corresponding exam policies, with an approach utilizing the best practices for high-stakes testing programs. Paulette has worked in the professional testing for more than 2 decades, with a history of overseeing the planning, development, execution, monitoring, and quality control for all components of exams in professional environments. Naomi Sinclair has administered exams for the past 6 years at a multitude of organizations and is passionate about standardizing candidate examination experiences and quality control. We do have a lot of material to cover today and might not spend as much time as you would like on a particular slide, but don't worry, this webinar will be available for your review in approximately 1 week. Now let's take a look at today's agenda. Today's webinar will provide you with details on exam format and registration, exam day preparation, the QAFP examination structure and software, sample questions, the practice exam, and common mistakes and tips. Let's dive in with a look at the exam format and registration. Naomi?
Before selecting an online proctored exam, you'll want to carefully consider the requirements to participate. This includes meeting specific technical and system requirements, as well as ensuring your testing environment can remain quiet and free of distractions during the exam. We'll be discussing these requirements in greater detail later in the presentation, and they are also available in the guide to the QAFP exam. However, in considering how you would like to write your exam, it's important to know that you as the candidate are responsible for meeting the technology requirements to write the exam via online proctoring, and there are no exceptions for these requirements. Candidates who do not meet the requirements have the option to secure the appropriate equipment or register for a future exam sitting. Now, I'll take us through some details about the QAFP exam administration, starting with details about the FP Canada Guide to the Examination and important exam day information. We sometimes hear from candidates that they were surprised by the rules of the examination. You should be expecting a strict environment with procedures and rules. You'll be required to sign in, provide current identification, and adhere to the examination day policies. Exam security is extremely important to FP Canada. The FP Canada Guide to the QAFP Examination, which is the administrative guide to the exam experience, contains information on what to expect before, during, and after the exam. The guide to the QAFP exam can be found at the FP Canada website. When registering for the QAFP examination, if you hadn't already done so, you'll be required to sign off during the application process that you have read, understood, and agree to abide by the policies and procedures set out in the guide to the examinations. What to do before exam day. It is recommended that all candidates review the FP Canada Study Toolkit. Although we do not provide recommendations to specific study guides, books, or courses, you will find a list of all FP Canada's study resources on this page. It's the gateway to the QAFP practice exam, sample questions, this webinar, and study tips and resources. For candidates taking an online proctored exam, as we've already mentioned, you must ensure that your computer meets the technology and system requirements. This includes having a functioning microphone and web camera, a compatible internet browser, which is the Guardian browser, a compatible monitor, and a compatible operating system. It is also recommended that you use a personal computer for the examination. If you are using a corporate computer, that is your work computer, you'll want to review the additional guidance found on FP Canada's online proctored exam page to ensure your computer can install programs. Note that there are no exceptions for these requirements, and candidates are responsible for testing their technology and system requirements in advance of exam day. We recommend that you access and use the examination tutorial to become more familiar with the exam software interface that you'll encounter on exam day. A link to the examination tutorial is available through your FP Canada portal and in the FP Canada Guide to the QAFP Examination. You can follow the link, which will lead to a short online practice version of the actual exam software. This simulated version allows you the opportunity to familiarize yourself with the exam software environment, which should add a level of comfort on exam day. Let's take a look at the tutorial. This screen shows how a multiple choice question will appear on the exam software. It includes a short client scenario and your choice of A, B, and C options. Although this example shows 4 options, the QFP exam will present only 3 options in the multiple choice questions. At the top of your screen, you can see your progress. Here we are on question 3 of 15. You can also see the I in the blue circle on the top bar. If you click on that, you'll get a pop-up of acronyms and equations. You can navigate through the questions with your cursor by moving from one of the numbered question boxes to another. You can also bookmark a question by clicking on the bookmark box in case you want to go back to it later. Here we can see that question 3 has been bookmarked. The QAFP examination includes 3 case studies with related questions. These are presented at the end of the examination session. Candidates can have different strategies for completing the exam. Some might want to start with the cases, while others might want to tackle them later on in the examination. You can choose to do either since the exam software will allow you to easily navigate among questions. The case study narratives are provided directly in the exam software. For those that have previously written at an FP Canada exam, note that separate physical booklets will not be provided. The corresponding multiple choice question sets are also presented in the computer testing software. Again, you will be required to select your response to the question by clicking on the corresponding radio button. At any time, you can go back and review and change your answers. Everything can be edited up until you submit your exam or your 3 hours for the examination session has run out. To submit your exam, you can click on the Submit Exam button on the top right-hand corner, but only when you are ready to submit. Candidates are responsible for meeting all the technology requirements for online proctoring and for installing the Guardian browser before their exam. Candidates must ensure their operating system is activated and compatible with the exam software. There are no exceptions for these requirements. Candidates who do not meet these requirements have the option to secure the appropriate equipment or register for a future examination sitting. An unstable internet connection is the most common technology problem candidates experience on exam day. Therefore, it is strongly recommended that candidates connect to the internet with a wired connection via Ethernet cable. A wired internet connection provides a direct and stable internet connection, which will significantly increase the strength and stability of your internet connection. If you are writing an online proctored exam, it is imperative that you prepare your testing environment in advance of exam day. It is your responsibility as a candidate to ensure that your testing environment is and will remain comfortable, quiet, and free of distractions during the scheduled examination. In addition to having a private and quiet location, you need to ensure your environment meets the following requirements: a cleared desk or tabletop. You may be asked by the proctor to remove anything from your desk that is not permanently affixed. The areas beneath your desk and chair are clear. The walls immediately behind and in front of you where you will be seated are clear. Landlines, non-required electronics, and any security or recording devices in the room are turned off. Other household members have been informed of the examination date and time and will remain quiet during the examination and will not enter the exam room. The proctor will confirm that all requirements are met on exam day. If you fail to set up your testing environment appropriately or have interruptions during the exam, the proctor may terminate your testing session. Full details on setting up your testing environment can be found in the QAFP exam guide and on our online proctoring exams webpage. You'll also want to ensure your computer station is prepared 30 minutes prior to the scheduled connection time to reduce potential connection issues. Again, it is mandatory that all candidates test their exam day computer prior to the examination date. If you are unable to access your examination due to a failure to complete the computer readiness check, you will be deemed a no-show for the exam. The first 15 minutes of the booked time will be used for the onboarding process. A proctor from ProctorU will help you begin the login process at least 10 minutes prior to the scheduled start time. Note that there may be a wait time for an onboarding associate. During busy times, the wait time to connect to an onboarding associate may be extended to 20 to 30 minutes. You should stay connected should a delay occur. Any onboarding delay will not impact the time allocated for the exam writing, as the exam timer only begins once you've started the assessment. If you fail to log in the first 30 minutes of your appointment time, you will be deemed a no-show candidate and will not be permitted to write the exam. All candidates will receive an admission ticket, and it will be available to you electronically approximately 10 to 14 days prior to the exam. You will receive your admission ticket via email directly from our exam partners at Measure Learning. Your admission ticket includes important information, including your ID needed to log into the secure exam software, details for setting or resetting your password. For online proctored exams, if you're having trouble setting up your station, confirming preparedness, or connecting to the proctor, contact ProctorU Assessment Support directly. Their live chat is available 24 hours, 7 days a week. Contact details for ProctorU can be found in the guide to the QAFP exam on our website and on your admission ticket. A frequent question we get asked is, what can I bring with me on exam day? On exam day, only certain items are permitted at your desk space. Candidates will not be permitted to keep possessions at their writing station and will be required to move them to a designated storage area. If writing online, you'll be required to move the admission ticket out of arm's reach after the check-in process. And note that you should not write anything on the admission ticket. You are permitted to use an FP Canada approved calculator for the examination. Only specific calculators are permitted, and these are listed in the FP Canada Guide to the QAFP Examination. For online proctoring, candidates are permitted to use handheld whiteboards no larger than 8.5 by 11 inches and fine point dry erase markers only. You will need to erase any notes or calculations in the proctor's view at the end of each session. In no circumstances will you be permitted to keep your cell phones or any other electronic devices other than the approved calculator at your writing station. And please note that if your phone rings during the examination, you may be subject to sanctions. So please ensure it is turned off when it is stored in a designated area. Only religious headwear is allowed, so you'll be asked to remove any other headwear such as a basketball cap or toque. The QAFP exam is a 3-hour exam administered in one exam section. For online proctored exams, please review your admission ticket or log into the Measure Learning Yardstick platform to confirm your start time. Once the exam begins, you will not be permitted to take breaks. In addition to the features highlighted earlier in the tutorial, there are 2 other features available for use in the software: the notes section and the ability to change font size. We will look at these more closely in the next 2 slides. If technical issues occur on exam day, alert the proctor immediately, and they will be able to assist you. For online proctored exams, use the chat feature to connect to your proctor directly for assistance. There is a notes section that can be accessed by clicking on the clipboard icon on the navigation bar at the top of the screen. You may add notes in here to help you think through the correct answer. These notes will not be reviewed or graded. They're strictly for your own reference. To change the font size in the software, click on the font icon located just below the navigation bar. To increase font size, click on the large A, and to decrease the font size, click on the small a.
In the next few slides, we'll talk about the QAFP examination and share some information about the exam itself, including the FP Canada Blueprint, QAFP examination, and the concept of complexity. The FP Canada Standards Council Competency Profile for QAFP certification is the criteria for the exam. It provides a summary of tasks that FP Canada certificants would do in everyday practice and illustrates the multidimensional nature of financial planning. It details the ability that the abilities It details the abilities that a QAFP professional must possess and represents not just the tasks, but also incorporates the job related skills, knowledge, attitudes, and judgments required for competent performance by members of the financial planning profession. This is a key document in your preparation for the QAFP exam, as each question is linked to a competency statement and is what is tested on the exam. The full competency profile document found on our website provides a detailed description and example of each competency statement and also includes a competency profile matrix listing all competencies and professional skills, which we will look at next. This page shown here details two collection competencies in the financial management area, describing the task of collects information regarding client assets and liabilities and collects information regarding clients' current and projected cash flow. These descriptions will help you better understand the competencies and how they may be tested on the QAFP exam. You can use this information to focus on your preparation and identify gaps in your competence and knowledge, and use that to research to help fill those gaps. This matrix of the competency statements is included in the full competency profile document and lists all the competency statements as found in the full competency profile. Although the matrix may appear small on this slide, you will find it is much more legible on the website. Note that we are only sharing the first page of the competency profile matrix here. Within the competency profile document, you will have access to the full matrix. We will take a closer look at this document on the next slide. Across the top, the matrix is divided into columns for the three financial planning functions of 1, collection, 2, analysis, and 3, recommendation. In preparing a financial plan, client details need to be collected. Details can include information about the client's family, client goals and objectives, as well as the numbers like RRSP values or debt balances. The collected information is then analyzed to determine the client's current situation, as well as opportunities, risks, or concerns. Through this process, the QAFP professional is then able to address issues for relatively less complex client situations, and then present client-specific recommendations. You will notice on the matrix that collection activities are divided into two columns. The competencies assigned as quantitative information deal with the numbers, like asset values or income amounts. The competencies assigned as qualitative information deal with the softer facts, such as the client's investment objectives or attitudes about retirement. Analysis activities are also divided into two columns. Assess the client situation under column 2.1 and considers and evaluates strategies under column 2.2. Recommendation activities are shown in one column, develops recommendations to help optimize the client's situation. The competencies are sorted into rows for the fundamental financial planning practices and the financial planning areas, and those headers appear on the left margin of the matrix across the 2 pages of the document. The competencies listed in the fundamental financial planning practices are tasks that are common to all of the financial planning areas. These are the abilities that deal with pulling everything together from all of the different areas to come up with a client-specific financial plan. The statements of competencies are assigned to the most applicable financial planning area of the 6 areas listed here. But of course, many areas overlap, which is not surprising given the intergroup nature of financial planning. I encourage you to use the matrix and the entire competency profile document in your preparation. Work through each competency to understand the expectation of it and how you will apply your knowledge to demonstrate the specific competency. Remember, application of knowledge is key. A listing of the professional skills included in the FP Canada Standards Competency Profile for QAFP professionals can be found on the second page of the matrix. These are the skills that speak to acting as a professional with clients and colleagues. They outline the professional responsibility to clients. The professional skills are sorted into columns under professional conduct, critical thinking, interpersonal, communication, and collaboration skills. Candidates are expected to have proficiency in the professional skills included within the competency profile. Those competencies assigned as a professional skill will be integrated into at least 25% of the examination questions, and at least 10% of the QAFP exam will integrate competencies from the professional conduct section of the professional skills. To help illustrate this point, let's take a look at the collaboration skill PS 503. It reads, recognizes when to refer to a qualified professional to provide the necessary expertise. When a client may be seeking the QAFP professional's advice on estate planning, for example, and in particular the drafting of a new will, the QAFP professional would be expected to refer those clients to a lawyer. Some questions may also have an ethical component and could test issues such as client confidentiality, insider trading, or unsuitable investment recommendations. The QAFP examination blueprint provides information on the structure of the exam and details how the competency profile statements are weighted. The QAFP examination consists of competency-based questions, which are designed to test your skills and ability to use your knowledge in dealing with a range of different client situations. If we take a closer look at the blueprint, we can see that the majority of exam questions consist of independent multiple choice questions. Case studies, along with their related multiple choice questions, make up the remainder of the exam. The exam kit consists of up to 100 questions, and each question is a standalone item, meaning its answer isn't dependent on any of your responses to other questions. Each multiple choice question is worth 1 mark. The questions on the QAFP exam will test financial planning issues primarily at either a basic or moderate complexity level. There will be between 5 to 15% of questions with a high complexity rating. If we look at the concept of complexity, the level of complexity for an exam question increases if more knowledge is needed, or if there are more variables to consider, or if you need to integrate and factor in a number of different elements. The blueprint includes a description of the types of questions that may be encountered at each complexity level. This page of the blueprint details the range of coverage weightings for the financial planning functions seen in Section A, the financial planning areas detailed in Section B, and the level of complexity shown in Section C. Each question on the exam tests a competency statement from the matrix. It is tied to a function and a financial planning area and is given a complexity assignment. For example, if a question asks you to determine the client's cash flow shortfall in the event of 12 months of disability, this question would involve an analysis function in the insurance and risk management area, and it might be assigned a moderate level of complexity depending on the content of the information that is being analyzed. In Section A on this slide, you will note that the blueprint indicates a higher focus on the demonstration of the collection and analysis competencies. As you can see in Section B, all financial planning areas are tested on the QAFP examination and show comparable weightings, which emphasizes the importance of reviewing all topic areas when preparing to write the exam. Section C details the percentage of questions that fall under basic, moderate, and high complexity ratings. The blueprint is meant to guide to help you understand how the exam is built and what to expect in terms of coverage. Now let's take a look at the financial planning body of knowledge. Technical knowledge is the first step for competent performance. The financial planning body of knowledge is essential to the demonstration of competence in the fundamental financial planning practices and the financial planning areas on the competency profile. Knowledge around human behavior, decision-making, and relationships is important for the demonstration of professional skills. Appropriate levels of knowledge are required to do the tasks listed on the competency profile matrix. You must first have the knowledge before you can apply it in an appropriate manner to a particular client situation. The financial planning body of knowledge found on the FP Canada website details the technical knowledge required by you. This is the outline of what you need to know, and keep in mind that just knowing is not sufficient for competence performance. You will be expected to apply the technical knowledge to demonstrate competency. The financial body of knowledge includes 12 knowledge topics as shown on this slide, and within each topic area, there are a number of subsections. Let's look at some examples of how the financial planning body of knowledge supports the ability to do the tasks specified in the competency statements. In the competency profile, the retirement planning competency 1.117 in the collection column of the matrix reads, collects information regarding clients' potential sources of retirement income. To do this task and to demonstrate this competency, you may need to have the technical knowledge about CPP retirement pension benefits, but you will need to know how to use this knowledge, applying it to a client situation in order to demonstrate this task. Here is another example. Competency 3.102 from the matrix, which is under the recommendation column in the financial plan management row, reads, recommends optimal financial management strategies. An example here could be that the client may have cash available and wants the QAFP professional to recommend whether a contribution be made to an RRSP or an RESP. In order to recommend the best option for the client, you may need to be knowledgeable about RRSP attributes, RESP contributions, as well as income tax payable by the client. Then use this knowledge to assess the financial management strategies and recommend the most appropriate strategy for the client to help meet their goals and objectives. Now, let's take a look at a sample question that ties together the competency profile, blueprint, and financial planning body of knowledge.
Here is an example of a competency-based question testing retirement planning competency 1.117. To correctly answer this question, you need to apply your knowledge about the splitting of CPP retirement income due to divorce. For this question, the correct answer is A. When answering multiple choice questions such as this one, it is the knowledge that you learned in your approved education program and the application and use of that knowledge that has helped you prepare to write the exam. As stated, the correct answer is A. Application to split the credits can be made independently by Helen, and she will need to provide the required documentation. Although this question deals with one concept, it does require a more advanced understanding of the splitting of CPP credits with divorce, so it was given a moderate complexity rating. So, how do you use this information to prepare for the exam and work on your success on the exam? Preparation, as you already know, is critical for your success. You should be prepared to take the exam by knowing what to expect and what is expected of you on exam day, as we have already covered. The first step in preparation is to become familiar with the exam. A deeper understanding of the exam structure and its components will help you develop a plan to prepare for the exam, and you can get this information from the FP Canada Guide to the QAFP Examination, the Competency Profile, Blueprint, and other supplemental materials which we've discussed. Develop a plan that provides adequate time for reviewing items related to each of the competency profile components per the test blueprint. Allow sufficient time to adequately review the core competency areas of collection, analysis, and recommendation from the competency profile and the financial planning components. I cannot stress enough how important the competency profile is to your preparation. It is the basis for the development of the exam content, and each exam item is linked to one of the competency statements included therein. The exam criteria is the competency profile, and you should use that as the primary document in your preparation arsenal. Review the competency profile with the exam blueprint to understand how the competencies will be weighted on the exam. Cross-reference the competencies and related knowledge with your education materials or other learning and preparation resources. In the course of your study, try to identify questions that could possibly be asked on the test. Practice exams should not be a substitution for other preparation and learning, but it can be a valuable tool as a component of your preparation. Try integrating ideas from your readings, lectures, and notes that could be used to develop practice questions. One recommendation is to practice using our practice exam and the sample questions available on the website. Unfortunately, not everyone passes the QAFP examination on their first attempt. For candidates that were previously unsuccessful on an FP Canada exam, in addition to the preparation strategies we've already shared, here are some additional tips to consider. Review that diagnostic feedback from your previous attempt to understand your areas of strength and weakness. Consider that performance while also considering how components are weighted on the exam, which are noted on the exam blueprint. Spend more time preparing and studying in those financial planning function and component areas that showed weaker results. You may also find it helpful to revisit the competency profile and exam blueprint as you review your diagnostic feedback and as you prepare for the exam. Allow enough time to implement a good study program. Plan your study prep time and incorporate it into your weekly routine. Do not leave it all to the last weeks before the exam. Consider your previous study habits and assess what worked for you and what didn't. Try some different methods, like a study group with colleagues, creating storyboards for competency statements, a different timer setting for studying, or refresh some of your materials. And of course, prepare and practice using competency-based assessment material, like financial planning case studies. The QAFP examination is a pass or fail examination. The goal of the QAFP examination is to determine if you meet the requirements of competence to earn the QAFP certification. We use industry-accepted psychometric methodologies to determine what the pass mark of the exam is based on the expected standards of competence. The process we use ensures every exam candidate is measured equitably and fairly, even though each exam contains different questions between exam administrations. This is not a bell-curved exam, but what is referred to as a criterion referenced exam, where the level of competence expected is consistent from one examination to another. Thus, all candidates have to meet the established standard, which is the same for each exam. This methodology is a commonly accepted practice in the credentialing field for similar high-stakes certification exams. It allows us the confidence of knowing that every QAFP certificant is meeting the same industry-defined standard of competence. Paulette will now share information about sample questions.
Thank you. We have 3 sample questions for review here to help you get familiar with competency-based questions and their complexity assignment. There are 22 standalone multiple choice sample questions and 1 sample case study available on the FP Canada website through the FP Canada portal. These are useful tools to help you prepare for the exam, so please access them to review and familiarize yourself even more with the types of questions to expect on the QAFP exam. The first question is about Jared's RSP proceeds. This is a competency-based question because you need to apply your knowledge about RSPs. To arrive at the correct solution for this question, you need to know the tax treatment of RSP proceeds on the death of the plan holder. You'll note that only 3 options are presented, and you are to choose the best answer. The correct answer is A, will be included as income on his terminal return. The RRSP proceeds are not passing to a surviving spouse or to minor or dependent children, so the proceeds will be declared on Jared's final income tax return. This question has a basic complexity assignment since it just deals with one topic, the tax treatment of an RSP on death. In answering this question, Tax Planning Competency 1.115 identifies tax implications of assets and liabilities has been demonstrated. We can also see here how the question is tied to the body of knowledge. This question is testing knowledge area 4, registered retirement plans, and the subtopic RSPs, death of an RSP annuitant. A basic complexity is assigned because the question is just dealing with one topic, with no integration needed across other planning areas. So let's have a look at the second question. This next question is from our pool of sample items that appear on our website. A recent widow is assessing her estate planning given her husband's death. There are a number of activities listed, and one of these should be the priority for her. This question demonstrates estate planning and legal aspects competency 3.120, which reads, prioritizes the steps, sequencing, and timing for a client to implement the recommended legal measures. Option B is the correct response. Since her appointed attorney is now deceased, she needs to revise this document to appoint a new power of attorney. Her will is still valid, so executing a new will is not required. And with the existing beneficiary deceased, these assets would be paid to her estate and distributed according to her will, so option C is not an immediate priority. As we previously noted, professional skills are an element of at least 25% of questions on the exam. Here, we can see that this question has an assignment of professional skill in critical thinking. Professional skill 201 identifies and assesses financial concerns and/or issues. It has a moderate complexity assignment since a wider breadth of knowledge is required here. You need to know about wills, power of attorney, and the impact of a deceased beneficiary. So let's take a look at one more question. This question requires a two-step time value of money calculation. Step one is to calculate the RIF balance at age 71 to meet his planned RIF income to age 90. And step two is to calculate the RSP funding required to reach that RIF balance at age 71. This is a calculation-heavy question and has been assigned a high complexity rating. This question demonstrates competency 2.221, considers potential retirement income strategies, which is a retirement planning task and an analysis function. The correct response for this question is option A. Based on the calculations, he will need to increase his annual RSP contribution amount to meet his RIF income objective. This question also has an ethical component with option B. Option B would not be suitable for the client based on his low investment risk tolerance and would then be a breach of Rule 22 of FP Canada's Standards of Professional Responsibility, which states that recommendations are to be both prudent and appropriate for the client. This question can also be tied to a professional skill, critical thinking skill 205, which is assesses and compares options to arrive at a recommendation. In addition to the free sample questions available at the website, we do offer the QAFP practice exam, which can be another valuable study tool to help you prepare for writing the exam. So let's talk about that. With the practice exam, you can become familiar with the type of questions used on the exam structure and blueprint weighting, as well as the use of the computer-based software for the exam. It's available for $125 plus applicable taxes when purchased with exam registration, or for $150 plus applicable taxes if purchased after you've registered for the exam. You can do that by accessing the link through the FP Canada portal. The QAFP exam practice exam can be written only once, but can be done over multiple cities to a maximum time period of 6 hours. We recommend you begin your review of the practice exam early and no later really than 1 month prior to the exam to maximize the value of this tool. But I also encourage you to allot, if you can, a 3-hour window to complete the practice exam. This will help you simulate the experience of the actual time of the live QAFP exam. We do update this QAFP practice exam about annually, and the first page of the practice exam will tell you when it was last updated. We suggest you open your practice exam when you purchase it to ensure there are no technical difficulties in accessing it and in answering the questions. When you've completed the practice exam, a diagnostic feedback, similar to what's shown here, will be provided. It shows your performance in the various financial planning functions and areas based on the blueprint. There will be areas of strength and perhaps areas of weaker performance. By doing the practice exam early, you'll have an opportunity to identify and focus on those weaker areas, the ones where further review may be required. However, it is very important to consider this performance in the context of the exam blueprint. You can also review the diagnostic report up until exam day. Also note that the exam questions and possible answers are provided at the bottom of the diagnostic report with rationales explaining each option. You will see which answers you had right and which ones were incorrect. In a survey of exam candidates, many who purchased the practice exam, they responded that they felt better prepared to write an FP Canada exam they were more familiar with the exam software, and felt that the practice exam diagnostic report provided useful information on their performance. Although these are different questions than the ones that will be on your actual exam, the practice exam does use retired questions from previous exams and is designed to meet the blueprint, meaning that it meets the weighting ranges for each financial planning function, area, and level of complexity. Also, remember to consider that you are completing the practice exam in a setting that is different than the actual exam day experience without the same pressures, so the practice exam should not be used as a predictor of exam success. So, we're often asked about study tips and the do's and don'ts when it comes to preparing for and writing the exam. I'm going to run through a few pointers to help you improve your success in writing the QAFP exam. And there are two main factors we observe which can impact your exam performance and stress level: time management and reading the questions carefully. In terms of time management, some candidates may allot too much time to one case or one question. Candidates may overthink a question or spend too much time trying to answer one question. Remember, as Lorraine stated, each multiple choice question is worth 1 mark, so spending too much time on one question may limit the ability to get to all questions and could then result in you missing marks. The other factor that can certainly impact exam performance is making sure you carefully read the question. Candidates sometimes jump to conclusions when reading a question and the options presented. Candidates sometimes will go to the most attractive or the obvious answer. So in selecting your answer, verify that your chosen response uses the facts presented in the scenario and that it meets your client's stated objectives. So here are some tips. We recommend certainly that you develop a time management strategy before arriving at the exam. In the exam environment, we indicate the number of multiple choice questions presented. Typically, there are about 70 standalone multiple choice questions, and there will be 3 case study narratives with approximately 5 to 7 multiple choice questions each, up to about 100 questions. You'll have 3 hours or 180 minutes to complete the exam. So if you use about 15 minutes to read each case study narrative, that leaves you about 120 minutes to answer up to the 100 questions. So you have an average time of just under 2 minutes per question. Some questions, of course, are going to take more time and some will take less time. You always need to be mindful of the work ahead and the time available. The exam software has a clock showing the time remaining to help keep you aware. Each multiple choice question on the exam, again, is worth 1 mark. So you might want to consider getting your marks first by answering as many questions as possible and bookmarking the questions in the software that may take more time to answer so that you can come back to them. If you take too much time at the beginning of the exam on the more challenging questions for you, you could run out of time and not get to those questions that were actually areas of strength for you. Another option might be to start with the case study narratives and their related questions first, and the exam software will allow you to move to any question within your exam session. Again, we would like to emphasize the importance of reading the question completely, ensuring you understand what is being asked, and when looking at the 3 options presented, keep the question scenario in mind and select the most appropriate option, always considering the client's goals or ways to meet the client's objectives. The incorrect options are made to be plausible to the client scenario and could apply in a different situation than the one presented, but are not the best answer for the scenario presented. All the materials we discussed today and more are available at the FP Canada website as linked on this page. This does conclude the webinar. Please visit our website, fpcanada.ca, and go to your portal to access the sample exam questions or to purchase the QAFP exam practice exam. If you have any questions about the exam, feel free to email us at info@fpcanada.ca and we will respond. We'd also like to remind you to refer to the guide to the QAFP exam since it likely addresses many of the questions and concerns you may have. Enjoy the rest of your day.